Hi everyone, welcome to the session of CNC, Cellular Mobile Communication. In this class, we will learn about the long distance propagation. When the mobile unit is away from the cell site, what is the propagation? Next, sorry. So, in the same way, what is the form of point-to-point model? So, in previous session, we have already discussed what is Lee model. So what are the considerations in Lee model? So those topics we have covered in previous session. And what are the merits of point-to-point model? And as well as what is the antenna height gain? So these topics we will cover in this class. And in previous session, we have discussed that what is meant by foliage loss and what is the propagation when the mobile unit is nearer to the cell site. That is the propagation in near and distance. So these topics we have covered in previous session. So this is long distance propagation is the continuation topic for the last class. So what is meant by long distance propagation? Here. So here, the advantage of a high cell site is that it covers the signal in a large area, especially in a noise limited system where usually different frequencies are used in different areas. Normally, we are applying or we are assigning different frequencies in different areas in order to avoid the interference. In order to avoid the interference, we are allocating different frequencies in different areas. Okay. So, if our mobile unit is away from the cell site, that means it is at a longer distance from the cell site. So here, if you increase the cell site antenna, that is cell site antenna height. So the advantage of increasing the cell site antenna or high cell site antenna is that it covers the signal in a large area. That means we can cover the signal or we can distribute the signal in a large area, especially in a noise limited system. Okay, so however, we have to be aware of long distance propagation phenomena. That means whenever we are increasing the height of the cell site antenna, we should also remember the long distance propagation. That means when the mobile unit is uh, at a very large distance from the cell site. So normally a noise limited system becomes an interference limited system. We know if it is a noise limited system, then it automatically becomes a interference limited system when traffic increases. So uh, so normally how we can have that means we have mainly two types of interference. That means co-channel interference and adjacent channel interference. These interference we have already discussed. So the interference is due to not only the existence of many co-channels or adjacent channels in the system, but also we have some extra interference because of long distance propagation. So with the addition of co-channel interference or adjacent channel interference, we have some more interference. That means when the wave is propagated through some longer distance. That means when our mobile unit is larger, that means at a very high distance uh, from the cell site, then it experiences some interference. That is when the wave propagated through some longer distances, it experiences some interference. So let us consider we have some 15-mile radius. Within the area of 50-mile radius means our mobile unit is within the 50 miles, within the area of 50 miles. Then let us consider our cell site antenna is height, that means high. We are taking the cell site antenna as high antenna. So the low atmospheric phenomena would cause the ground wave path to propagate in a straight line fashion, in a non-straight line fashion. So if you are increasing the cell site antenna height, when we are taking the cell site antenna height as high, as more, and because of low atmospheric conditions, because of low atmospheric phenomena, there is a non-straight line path. That means the wave is propagated in a non-straight line fashion. That is the wave is not propagated in a direct manner. Okay, so the wave path can bend either upward or down. That means there is a bending of wave when we have some low atmospheric phenomena, even though we are increasing the height of the Celsius antenna. Then we may have experienced that one spot, the signal, at one spot we can have some strong signal, at one spot we can get some weaker signal. Because of the bending of the wave, at some areas, at some points, we can get the high signal. At some points, we can get the low signal. So this is the situation when the mobile unit is within the area of 50 miles. So even though you are increasing the height of the antenna, because of these atmospheric conditions, there is some bending of wave occurs. Because of that bending, that means the wave can propagate through some upper. That means it can bend either upward or downward, and we can get some strong signal at some spots, and we can get some weaker signal at some spots. And let us take another distance at a distance of 320 kilometers. So that is approximately 200 miles. So which is larger than 50 miles. Okay. So here, because of tropospheric wave propagation, because of tropospheric atmosphere, so the wave is propagated and extends at 800 megahertz for longer distance propagation. Sometimes the signal can reach 320 kilometers away. So that is 200 miles away. Okay, so because of these tropospheric atmospheric conditions, the wave extends, or sometimes the wave signal or the signal can reach 320 kilometers away or 200 miles away. So even though our mobile unit is within 200 miles away, within the 200 miles, and because of tropospheric atmospheric conditions, the signal can reach 200 miles away. That is 320 kilometers away. So the wave is received 320 kilometers away because of an abrupt change in the effective dielectric constant. So why the wave, that means the signal can reach 320 kilometers away? Means we are receiving the signal away. That means 320 kilometers away because of the change in the dielectric constant. So here, why the dielectric constant changes? Because with the temperature change, that means with the change in the temperature, the dielectric constant also changes. So here, the dielectric constant changes at a rate of 6.5 degrees centigrade per kilometer. For every kilometer, there is a change of 6.5 degrees centigrade, and it reaches minus 50 degrees centigrade at the upper boundary of tropospheric atmosphere. So in tropospheric propagation, the wave may be divided by refraction and reflection. So here we are taking, or we are considering the distance of 200 miles. And when the mobile unit is within that range, because of these tropospheric atmospheric conditions, there is a change in the dielectric conditions, dielectric constant. And because of that change in the dielectric constant, and that is also depends on the temperature, the wave or the signal can reach 200 miles away. And because of this propagation, when the wave is propagated through some tropospheric atmosphere, then it is divided into refraction or reflection. What is meant by refraction or what is meant by reflection? So we know refraction and reflection. So here, this refraction is a gradual bending of the rays due to the changing of dielectric constant. Because of change in the dielectric constant, the wave may bend in the area. That is called refraction or tropospheric refraction. And tropospheric reflection means this reflection will occur where the because of dielectric constant change. This also occurs because of the dielectric constant change in the atmosphere, tropospheric atmosphere, and the distance of propagation is greater than the line of sight propagation. Because of this reflection, the distance of propagation is greater than the line of sight propagation. And next one is moistness. So here, the water content or water vapor has much more effect than the temperature on the dielectric constant of the atmosphere and on the manner in which the radio waves are affected. So water vapor, if you take some water vapor, let us consider some rainy season. So water content has more effect on the dielectric constant than the temperature. That means because of this water vapor, or if you take some rainy season, because of that water, then the dielectric constant may also change. And that change is more compared to the dielectric constant because of change in the dielectric constant with respect to the temperature. Okay, so the water vapor pressure decreases as the height increases. We know as the height increases, water vapor pressure also decreases. So troposphere wave propagation does cause the interference and can only be reduced by an umbrella antenna, umbrella beam antenna, and directional antenna, and low power antenna. So if you have some tropospheric atmosphere, and we have some propagation in the tropospheric atmosphere, then we can reduce the effect of that atmosphere or tropospheric atmosphere by the use of umbrella antenna and directional antenna and low power antenna. If you take these type of antennas, then we can reduce the loss or the loss in the propagation of the waves in the tropospheric atmosphere when the mobile unit is at a distance of 200 miles. Okay. So this is about long distance propagation. Long distance propagation includes here we are taking two examples within the 5-mile radius, within 200-mile radius. So within the 50-mile radius. So within 50-mile radius, this is the situation. The wave can bend either upward or down. Okay. So this is the situation in 50-mile radius. And next, within the 200-mile radius, because of change in the dielectric constant, there is some reflection or refraction of wave occurs. And next one is antenna height gain. What is the antenna height gain? Here we have to calculate the gain of the antenna. So finding the antenna height gain includes three or four rules or 4 parameters. First one, find the specular reflection point. To find out the antenna height gain, first of all, we should find out the reflection point. So how we can find out the reflection point? Take two values from two conditions. Here we are considering two conditions and two values. So first condition is connect the image antenna of the cell site antenna to the mobile antenna. An intercept point at the ground level is considered as the reflection point. So here we are connecting the cell site antenna image to the mobile antenna. We are connecting the cell site antenna and the mobile antenna. The intercept point at the ground level is considered as reflection point. When we are connecting these antennas, the intercept point at the ground level represented as reflection point. That is the first case. And in second case, connect the image antenna of the mobile antenna to the cell site antenna. And the intercept point at the ground level is also considered as the reflection point. In the second case, same as that of first case, but here we are connecting the image of mobile antenna. So here we are connecting cell site antenna to the mobile antenna, and in this case we are connecting the mobile antenna to the cell site antenna. So when we are connecting these two antennas, the intercept point at the ground level is considered as reflection point. So here we have two reflection points. Here we have two reflection points from first case and second case. So between two potential reflection points, here we have two reflection points. So between two reflection points, we choose the point which is closer to the mobile unit. So out of these two reflection points, we are selecting one reflection point which is closer to the mobile unit because it is to be the real one, because more energy would be reflected to the mobile unit at that point. So we are selecting one reflecting point or reflection point which is closer to the mobile unit. Why we are selecting that one means it is because of that point more energy would be reflected to the mobile unit. Okay, so that is the finding of reflection point. Okay, so here to find out the reflection point, we are connecting the antennas of cell site and mobile unit, and the intercept point at the ground level. We have two reflection points at two cases. We are considering one reflection point which is closer to the mobile unit, and by the use of that reflection point, we can find out the antenna height. That is the first one. And second one, extend the reflected ground plane. So the reflected ground plane is nothing but the plane at which the reflection point can occur. So the reflected ground plane, which is the reflection point, can be generated by drawing the tangent line to the point where the ground curvature is. So by extending that ground plane to the location of the cell site antenna. So let us consider. So here we have the figure. So here our mobile unit, and here we have cell site. This is the cell site antenna height. Let us consider that is 100 meters actual height, and this is the mobile unit antenna height. And when we connect these two antennas, we can get two reflection points. We can get two reflection points. Out of these two reflection points, let us consider we have one reflection point at this point and one reflection point at this point. So this point is closer to the mobile unit. So we are considering this point only. Okay. So this is the first rule. And second rule, extend the reflection or reflected ground plane. Reflected ground plane means from the reflection point, we are drawing a tangent line to the cell site. So that is called extending the reflected ground plane. And third one is measure the effective antenna height. So how we can measure the effective antenna height? So the effective antenna height is measured from the point where the reflected ground plane and the cell site antenna location meet. So where the reflected ground plane and cell site antenna meet, so that gives the effective antenna height. By the use of the that path, we can find out the effective antenna height. So between these two cases shown in the figure, so here we have two figures. One is from first figure, HE is equal to 40 meters. From the second figure, HE is equal to some 200 meters with the actual antenna height as 100 meters. So here we have two figures. From the first figure, effective antenna height is 40 meters. From this point to this point, antenna height is 40 meters, but the actual antenna height is 100 meters. From this point to this point, 100 meters. This is the actual height of the cell site antenna. Okay, and from this point to this point, that gives the effective antenna height. That is 100 meters to 140 meters. That is difference is 40 meters. Okay. This is the case when we are taking that is H1 is effective antenna height is 40 meters. That is the difference. That is 40 meters when the total height of the antenna is 140 meters. That is from ground level to this point, the total antenna height is 140 meters. And here the difference height is 40 meters. That is the effective antenna height is 40. And in this case, here the effective antenna height is 200 meters. That is difference is 200 meters, but the actual antenna height is 100 meters. Okay. So these are the two cases. First case represents the effective antenna height is 40 meters. And the second case represents the effective antenna height is 200 meters. From 100 meters to 300 meters, that is the difference is 200 meters. Okay. But total height of the antenna, cell site antenna is 300 meters. Actual antenna height is same, 100 meters. But depending on the propagation or the movement of the mobile unit from the cell site, we can have the effective height. Okay, the effective height of the del H or the effective height changes with respect to the movement of the mobile unit. That means when the mobile unit moves, automatically effective antenna height also changes. Okay, so these two figures represents two scenarios when the mobile unit moves from one point to another point. And with respect to the mobile unit, the effective antenna height also changes. So here we are calculating the gain of the antenna. So calculate the antenna height gain, that is del G. So del G or G is equal to, we know the formula of gain, that is 20 log HE by H1. So for the first case, what is HE? HE is 40. What is H1? Actual height 100. Effective height is 40. So 40 by 100, that is minus 8 dB. And in the second case, what is the gain? That is del G is equal to 20 log HE by H1. For the second case, what is HE? Effective height is 200 and actual height is 100 ohm. Okay, so 200 by 100, So that is 6 dB. So this is the gain when we are considering this figure, first figure. In this case, effective height is 40 meters, actual antenna height is 100 meters. And this is the second case when the effective antenna height is 200 meters and the actual antenna height is 100 meters. And these are the gains in the two cases. Okay. So this is about antenna height gain. Next one is form of point-to-point model. So these are the formulas. Form of point-to-point model means this describes some formula of the Lie model or point-to-point model stated in three cases. That is non-obstructive path, obstructive path, and land to mobile or water path. So that is the received power when we take some non-obstructive path. Non-obstructive path means direct path. Okay. So in that case, the received power formula is this. That is PR naught minus gamma log R by R naught plus 20 log HT dash by H1 plus alpha. And in the obstructive part, that is if you have some reflections, then this is the formula for the received power, that is PR naught minus gamma log R by R naught plus L plus alpha. So, and third case is land to mobile over water, or that is equal to free space formula. So when we are taking some landline, that is when the wave propagated from landline, that is land to the mobile over water area, this is equal, the formula is equal to the free space formula. This is already derived in previous sessions. Okay. So these are the received power formulas in different paths, that is non-obstructive path, that is in different areas by considering different paths, that is non-obstructive path, obstructive path, and land to or water path. Okay. And next one is merits of point-to-point model. Why we are taking point-to-point model? So what is Lie model? How we can develop a Lie model or generate a Lie model? That means in previous sessions we already discussed. So why you are considering point-to-point model, or we can also call it as prediction model. So by the use of this model, we can predict the values. We can predict the strength of the signal or that particular area. So the point-to-point model reduces the uncertainty range by including the detailed terrain contour information in the path loss predictions. So by the use of point-to-point model, there is a reduction of uncertainty, and by this model, we can get the detailed information of the terrain contour and as well as path loss information also. Okay, and the differences between the predicted values and the measured ones for the point-to-point model were determined in many areas. We can develop a point-to-point model in different areas by the predicted values and the measured values. And we know the difference between the predicted values and measured values. Predicted value means we are predicting some value or some energy, signal energy at that particular area. And measured one means when we are measuring the signal strength, actually what is the signal strength at that particular area, that is the measured one. Okay. And next, in the following discussion, we compare the difference shown in the, here we are comparing two areas. One is Whippany NJ area, second one is Camden Philadelphia area. We are comparing these two areas and we plot the points with predicted values at the x-axis and measured values in the y-axis. So this figure represents the indication of errors in point-to-point predictions under non-obstructive conditions. Okay, and here we are comparing two areas. One is Whippany area, second one is Philadelphia area, and dot mark represents the Whippany area and cross mark represents the Camden area or Philadelphia area. So on x-axis we are taking the predicted values, on y-axis we are taking some measured values. So here we are taking some 45 degrees line. This is the line. So 45-degree line is the line of prediction without error. So this is the line. This is the prediction line without error. Okay, this is 45-degree line. So the dots are the Whippany area. The dots represent the Whippany area, and the crosses or the data from the Philadelphia area. So most of them except the 9 dB, except one at 9 dB, are closer to the line of prediction without error. So that is the mean value of all the data is right on the line of prediction without error. So here the standard deviation of the predicted value of 0.8 dB from the measure. So if you observe the figure, so this is the prediction line. Okay, that means we can predict some value. That is, by the use of point-to-point model, we can predict some value or some energy in that area. And measured areas means here for the Vipani area, these dots are measured ones. And for the Philadelphia area, cross marks are the measured ones. Okay, so here most of them except 1 at 9 dB are close to the prediction error or prediction line. So except 9 dB, so that is at this point, except this point, all values are closer to the prediction. That means all measured values are closer to the predicted values or prediction line. Okay, so that means point to point line. Point to point, by the use of point to point model, we can predict the signal in that particular area. So how the predicted value is closer to the measured value. So here we are calculating that one. So here the measured data in different areas are closer to the predicted line or predicted values. By the use of point-to-point model, we are predicted some values. So measured values are closer to the predicted value except this 9 dB line, except this 9 dB values. All the values are closer to this prediction line. Okay. So in other areas, the differences were slightly larger. So if you take some other area, the differences were somewhat larger. So however, the standard deviation of predicted value never exceeds the measured one, more than 3 dB. So if you compare these two values, that is the prediction value and measured value. So these are closer to the prediction values. Okay. And the deviation may be approximately 3 dB only. That means the difference is approximately 3 dB only, not more than 3 dB. So the standard deviation range is much reduced as compared with maximum of 8 dB from area to area model. So if you go for the area to area model, point to point, that means if you take some area to area model, then we can have some 8 dB variation or standard deviation is 8 dB. That is the difference between the predicted value and the measured value is 8 decibels. But whereas we go for the point-to-point model, it is 3 dB only. That means the difference is very low. That means the predicted value is closer to the measured value. So that is the advantage of point-to-point model or prediction model. Okay. So the point-to-point model is very useful for designing the mobile cellular system if the radius of the cell is 10 miles. So it is applicable when the cell radius is 10 miles or less. Okay. So another use is it is used to provide overall coverage of cell sites and to avoid the Coachman interference. By the use of point-to-point model, we can know, that means we can observe the signal strength throughout the cell or throughout the cell area. So moreover, the occurrence of handoff faults in the cellular system can also be predicted by the point-to-point model. So finally, by the use of point-to-point prediction model, by the use of this model, it is used to generate the signal coverage map, interference area map, handoff occurrence map, and optimum system design configuration. So by the use of point-to-point model, we can draw signal coverage map. That means what is the signal strength throughout the cell, we can know. And interference area map. That means what is the interference at that particular area, we can observe. And what is the handoff occurrence in that particular cell, we can also draw that map also by the use of prediction model or point-to-point model. So these are all advantages of point-to-point model. So or merits of point-to-point model. So thank you.